First of all, I would like to remark a couple of things. The first one is that you may believe me if I say that I am the happiest speaker of this FIAR 2019.
Please keep the microphone closer to your mouth.
Closer? Yes.
Yeah.
So I am the happiest speaker of all, no doubt. Since my young days at university, my aim, my priority was to visit Romania, and this is my first visit to Bucharest and Sinaia. So I am deeply indebted and very thankful to Daniela and Exprim for being here. And my second remark is that I am not a bilingual speaker. I don't use my English on a daily basis. I am more focused on domestic issues, and therefore I will make some silly slip-ups during my presentation. I feel rather uncomfortable with my English, but I will try my very best. Once I've said that, my aim is to explain you how the scheme in Spain works. The scheme is the Consorcio de Compensación de Seguros, and hereinafter a Consorcio, or the CCS. And I will try to give you an overview of how we tackle with natural catastrophes, so you may have the overview from the Romanian market, the Turkish one, and the Spanish also. So this is a photograph of the Consorcio's headquarters just in the center of Madrid, in Paseo de la Castellana, where it is located, the Consorcio, and also Santiago Bernabéu's stadium, where Real Madrid wins every Sunday and wins the European Champions League. Well, nearly every Sunday. So now, well, we have 13 Champions Leagues. No, we don't need anything else. So now I will give you 15 features about the Consorcio in order to have a complete scheme. First of all, we are a long-established scheme. We were set up in 1954, so we are not a newborn. We are 65 years old, and we are going to last forever. We are not going to get retired because we are 65 years old. The second question is that we are an insurance cover scheme. We are neither reinsurance nor co-insurance. We have a direct relationship with the insured, with the policyholder that has been affected by a natural catastrophe. We are an entirely public scheme, and I am very sorry for Eugene, who spoke about the Spanish pool. We always say that we are not a pool at all. We are a public entity which is attached to the Ministry of Economy and which is somehow linked to the Spanish Insurance Supervisory Authority. We are different institutions, the supervisors and regulators on the one hand and the Consorcio on the other hand, but the head of the insurance supervisory body is the head of the Consorcio as well. And the fourth feature is that we don't only deal with natural catastrophes. We are a multifunctional institution. We are a multifunctional institution because we deal with the insurance of natural catastrophes, of course. That's why I'm here today. But we are also the insurers of terrorist attacks in Spain. And we are the MTPL Insurance Guarantee Fund. So we have a an important role regarding motor car insurance, not only because we are a guarantee fund, as there is a guarantee fund in every member state of the European Union, it's also because we have a peculiar function as guarantee fund. We insure motor vehicles that have been rejected by the insurance private market. So we provide compulsory MTPL to those poor drivers who don't find insurance in the market. We are the co-insurers and reinsurers of the agricultural insurance scheme, which is a very peculiar scheme and that has been functioning since 1979 with thanks to it's backed by the consortio. And finally, we are the liquidators of insurance undertakings and therefore the Spanish insurance guarantee scheme. So, after these first features, let's focus on natural catastrophes. The Spanish insurance is called extraordinary risks insurance, and it has two different sides. Natural disasters on the one hand and man-made disasters on the other hand. So this is the list of natural disasters that are covered by the consortio. Floodings, battering sea waves, it's very important in Spain because we have the Atlantic Ocean, the Cantabric Sea and the Mediterranean Sea surrounding Spain. Severe windstorms, that means windstorms with gusts of wind about 120 kilometers per hour, and tornadoes, regardless the strength of the tornado. We cover all tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, and meteorites. And on the other side, man-made disasters, basically terrorism and riots. And this is very important to understand the scheme. Extraordinary risks as a whole are covered by the consortio, and there is no separate cover of each of those natural and man-made disasters. The key issue is compensation amongst all those risks. So we don't provide a specific kind of risk. We both cover natural and man-made disasters. This is a comprehensive cover because the consortio covers damage to property, loss of profits or business interruption, and also personal bodily injuries. And in the case of bodily injuries, we pay injuries caused by catastrophes or man-made disasters that have occurred not only in Spain but also abroad. And it is a compulsory nature of coverage, the one that is provided by consortio. This way we collect a sufficient volume of premiums. The premiums are called legally surcharges in favor of the consortio. That's the name that is provided in the legal framework, and therefore we aim at compensation amongst exposed zones and rarely exposed zones. So the price is affordable and stable even for risk-prone zones. This is that's why we are called Consortio de Compensación. We compensate as a key issue. Now, this extraordinary risk cover is totally linked to standard cover. We have a policy in the case of personal damage, an accident or a life policy, or in the case of damage to property, a robbery or a theft, a business interruption or fire insurance. And this is how we deal with the issue. The insurance policy for extraordinary risks is not issued by the consortio. It is issued by the insurance undertaking. So in Spain, the same policy includes two different contracts. The standard contract, or the so-called ordinary risk contract, and the extraordinary risk coverage. We have a private insurer who is issuing the policy and who is collecting a premium with a free premium rate, and just imagine a Spaniard reading the whole policy. This has never happened, but it could happen, and if he did so, he would find that after the different clauses related to standard risks, the one he was seeking, there are some clauses about extraordinary risks, not speaking about fire, theft, and so on, but about floods, windstorms, earthquakes, terrorism, and riots. And with the name of CCS, who is charging a compulsory premium, a compulsory surcharge. And there are a number of coverage clauses that are included in all the contracts, and these wording of these clauses have been approved by the insurance regulator. Now, how about premiums? Well, this is a compulsory surcharge, as I previously mentioned, and there are flat rates because they are based upon the principle of pure compensation. And here we have some examples. For instance, for housing, if someone has his house insured and the sum insured is, let's say, 100,000 euros, he would pay 7 euros to the consortium. If he has an industry, that would be 18. In the case of motor vehicles, there is a fixed sum because there is no sum insured in the motor car insurance policy, and there are different kind of surcharges depending on the type of vehicle. For instance, in case of cars, it's 2 euros 10 cents, and in the case of mopeds, it's 1 euro 20 cents. That's the fixed amount to be paid to the consortium, so that if this vehicle is insured, we would pay compensation in case of any natural disaster or in case of a man-made disaster. There is a crucial cooperation between the consortium and the undertakings, the insurance undertakings, and this is one of the major examples, because the insurance undertaking issues the policies and collects the premium of the consortium along with its own premium, and then they transfer on a monthly basis the surcharges to the consortium. And to be frank, they transfer 95% of the surcharges because there is a commission, a 5% commission. But thanks to this approach, the consortium, as a direct insurer of natural catastrophes and man-made disasters, doesn't need at all a tied agent or a broker's network. We have our own distribution network, which is the whole insurance industry. Now, which are the terms of insurance compensation? If there is a flood or an earthquake, we would pay the same property and persons that are included in the policy, the same sum insured. We would have in mind the same sum insured and with the same compensation conditions as the policyholder has in his own insurance contract. There are some exceptions. For instance, in the case of deductibles, we have a specific deductible for direct material damages, so that the consortium pays 93% of the compensation of the compensable losses, whatever the amount is, and there is therefore a 7% of compensation as deductible. But we eliminated deductibles in the case of motor vehicles, houses, and homeowners association. In these three cases, we pay in full. There are the same ordinary, the same deductibles in case of loss of profits. They have the policyholder has in his own ordinary contract, and in the case of bodily injuries, there is no deductible at all, whatever the deductible is in the insured policy. Now, how do we tackle when an earthquake or a flood or a severe windstorm occurs? Well, the basic principle is that the consortium, as direct insurer, handles the claim entirely with our own resources. That means that the reporting of the claim is filed through two different means: via or call center and via the website of the consortium. You just enter or you provide your data, and at that very moment the file is registered, and we send an mobile, an SMS to the insured stating the code of his file. Once the claim is reported, we have to assess the losses, and we have a network of loss adjusters and also of medical practitioners in case of bodily injuries, and we have also a communication application via web service, so that adjusters provide the reports, photographs, and the clauses of the policy via this web platform. The claims handling is tackled by a network of 18 regional branches, and the payment is done by the consortium directly to the insured by bank transfer. This is the main way we organize things, except in one case, severe windstorms, because in this case we cannot act immediately. We act immediately in case natural disasters and man-made disasters take place, with this exception, because I told you before that we cover not any kind of wind, but severe windstorms are stated as those where there are identified some gusts of wind exceeding 120 kilometers per hour. It is pure. We know that the insurers do not cover any kind of wind, so that's the reason why we have a threshold. So damages by wind are not covered automatically. This is an exception. In the case of floodings, we cover any kind of flood. We have big disasters, medium-sized disasters, and tiny disasters. If there is a flood, it is a question, it is on the consortium's side. But in this case, we have to ask the State Weather Agency to study the situation and to provide the consortium with wind maps sectioned by speed of the winds. And once we have those maps, it is the consortium that agrees which are the municipalities where in principle, we could think that the gusts of wind exceed 120 kilometers per hour. And believe me, we do it in a very flexible way. We have a meeting we meet with the major insurers, we explain our maps, we explain the municipalities, and we are very transparent, and in case of that, we include the municipality in the side of the consortium and not on the side of the insurance undertakings. So, it is necessary to handle the claims immediately. We cannot wait to the report of the national weather agency, and we agreed on a procedure whereby the insured reports damages directly to his or her insurance undertaking. Assessment, claims handling and payment is advanced by the insurance company, and once the consortium provides the municipalities and maps, the definitive ones, then there is a reimbursement procedure, a telematic, by means of an agreement that dates 14th November 2011. Of course, it is not only a question of reimbursement of the amounts that have been paid by the insurance undertakings in those municipalities, in those cities, in those areas, but also we have a procedure whereby the consortium analyzes the loss adjustment reports and the claim that has been handled by the insurance undertakings. So we supervise what has been done by the insurance undertaking before paying reimbursement. Now, once being said all what I have said, I would sum up saying that our cover is firstly legally defined. It is published in the official journal. So there is legal certainty There is yearly cover with no variations depending on the circumstances of the market, and it's not under constant review. This is very important both for the insurance undertakings and for the policy holders. It is qualitative and not quantitative. That means that we compensate regardless the amount of total losses, the number of affected insureds, and the extension of the affected areas. That means that we act immediately, and we, as previously said, have a number of tiny or medium-sized events also to handle and to compensate. And we cover automatically. No prior official statements are required stating the catastrophic nature of the event causing the losses. And of course, we have to remember always when we speak about this in Spain that we are an insurance scheme. Because we are entirely public, we have to remind people that we do not grant aids or subsidies. We compensate because there is an insurance contract and because the policyholder has previously paid a premium which comes along with a surcharge already paid to the consortium. The risk is not transferred to the reinsurance market. We are, let's say, I would say, nowadays we are quite popular amongst policyholders. We are quite popular and we are well considered amongst insurers. We are not so popular amongst reinsurers, but we don't transfer risks to the reinsurance market. We are backed by the state guarantee. No maximum loss that the consortium will pay. There is no maximum loss stated. Should claims exceed the reserves, then we have the funds from the government. The reserves have never been exhausted and the state guarantee has never been applied. And as regards our reserves for natural catastrophes, nowadays 7 billion euros. Some recent significant events we have had to handle. We have settled those claims and assessed losses for windstorm clause. That was it was a hard task to handle and settle and pay 276,000 claims and 500 million euros. In the case of earthquakes, Lorca earthquakes in the east of Spain was the most important one. In 11th May 2011, 33,000 claims we have to handle, and we paid 485 million euros. As regards to floods, the southeast in 2012, just 1 year after the Lorca earthquake, we handled 32,000 claims and paid 215 million euros. And as regards to battering waves, the Cantabric seashore is perhaps the most active seashore in Spain. It's just close to the Atlantic Ocean. So every year, besides these major events, we deal with a number of extraordinary events resulting in thousands of claims with a cost of several million euros. These are some examples, recent examples regarding floods and also severe windstorms. So as you may see, these are events that occur on a yearly basis, and we are used to tackle with these kind of events. So a final conclusion to end with. The key to success. Well, after thinking about our experience, after our 65-year experience, I think that this is the key. The private and public partnership. The consortium is not a competitor to the market. The consortium complements the private insurance market, and we have made a clear distinction between the role of the consortium and the role of the private insurance industry. The private industry has to deal with the standard risks, whereas the consortium has to deal with extraordinary risks. And this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that we all believe in these principles. We all assume that we are fighting in a different side, and also that we have to be very well coordinated. And how about climate change? Well, we are, let's say, very optimistic about climate change and the reply of the consortium for the climate change exposures, because the system has been running smoothly for 65 years, and the system is not nowadays the same as it was in 1954. So we have been adapting ourselves to different circumstances, and we have done so with the hand on the industry, the private industry. So we have modified thresholds several times. We have been adding new extraordinary risks, for instance, severe windstorms without the need of rain, or tornadoes, or loss of profits. They were not implemented in 1954, and we have been adjusting surcharges. And you may also think that if we have been expanding our coverage, it's because we have higher surcharges than we had before, and it's just the opposite. In the last 5 years, we have lowered our surcharges twice, because it is a compulsory surcharge. We think that in the case we have good results, being prudent, we ought to be as less expensive to the consumer, to the policyholder, as possible. So, we will do our adaptation to climate change, and we will do it in the same way we have been doing before, with the private insurance industry agreeing on the terms of that adaptation. And, well, thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any questions, and if I am able to understand the questions and to know their reply, the answer, I would be very happy to do it. Thank you very much.